Oh, what's up, guys? Hey, what's up, guys? Got some presentation talking tips in this video. I really am compelled to make a video where we talk about presentation talking tips specifically. I relate this mostly to in-person presentations, perhaps large format meetings. And a large format meeting could be when you are attending, let's say, a big meeting, you're conducting a big meeting, and you may be the lead in bringing in a whole group of subject matter experts. But I just consider a large format meeting something where there's a lot of people in attendance, clearly. Otherwise, why would we call it a large format meeting? And in this one, specifically, of course, in person, and in person is very different than doing a virtual meeting. There's other thoughts on virtual meetings. I got so many. But instead of doing everything on the whiteboard on this video, I actually just started doing the whiteboard already. So you're not going to have to watch the back of my bald head. And I'm wearing a hat anyway, so you wouldn't see the bald spot. But all good. So presentation and talking tips specifically. So I wrote down the first one, so let's just get right into it. And my first thought is that the presentation starts when you walk in. A lot of people don't know exactly when a presentation starts. Some people would think that the presentation starts when the whole room gathers and you get in front of the audience and it's ready to go and your computer is ready to go and you're all hooked up and you say, okay, we're going to begin our presentation now. The presentation actually starts as soon as you walk in. And the reason why I make that really clear is because people are starting to pay attention to you from the moment you walk in. The impression that you leave somebody as soon as you meet someone is called a first impression. Naturally, we know that. And your first impression, a lot of times people aren't really conscious of their first impression. And you need to be really conscious of who's in the room when you walk into a room. Even if it's just one person and you're waiting for, let's say, a group of 20 people to attend your meeting. If you've got one person in the room and they're watching you even set up your AV or hook up your HDMI to your laptop or talk to your team, you got to know that the presentation starts when you walk in. How does this relate to talking tips? You got to be careful with what you're saying, obviously. Don't make silly jokes or anything like that. I've seen that happen where people are actually paying attention. But know that you need to start and conduct your presentation and you're talking immediately, even before the presentation starts. Start greeting people, start talking. Talk as if you're already being recorded or you're already in the moment for that presentation, like it's already started. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, you are the facilitator. So again, specifically with large format meetings, you want to make sure that it's clear that you are facilitating the meeting. And it's usually pretty evident. And the salesperson, let's say you're a salesperson, of course, this is for salespeople. Let's say you're the salesperson. It's really obvious to spot the salesperson in the group. They're usually the one conducting 75, 80% of the presentation. If there's a lot of slides, the salesperson usually has taken them all. But why facilitator and facilitation, that sounded pretty bad if you heard that on the mic. Why facilitation really matters is a good salesperson is really a really great facilitator. And what that means is you are facilitating the experience for your prospect or for your client. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to be the guy who does everything. You need to be the person who makes sure that everybody understands why they're in the meeting, why we just presented this particular piece of information. I like to focus on sales meetings. In my mind, I'm thinking about sales meetings. And in the sales meeting, everybody needs to know why. Why do you have different subject matter expertise there as far as different individuals? And if you're a good facilitator, you're going to let other people talk. So again, back to talking tips, the point of this video. If you're a good facilitator, you're going to let other people talk and your audience is paying attention if you don't. So don't be a hater, be a good facilitator. Don't be an imitator, be a good facilitator. And I really believe that the best salespeople, including myself, are great facilitators. We know when to let other people shine. And we know that our main job is to be setting up the meeting functionally, and the meeting needs to function in a way that allows it for maximum benefit. How do you allow maximum benefit? It's by letting people talk and being a really good host and facilitator. Moving on to number 3, your energy leads the way. So as you're talking And I'm talking about physical energy. I'm talking about maybe even spiritual energy. When you walk into a room, people will see your smile. They'll see your presence. So you got to keep carrying that energy and that presence the whole way through. The other thing that really matters, let's say you got a gang of 5 people from your company that are with you. All of the other 5 individuals or 4 individuals or however many people you have, they're going to follow your energy. So they're going to follow how energetic you are, and they're going to follow how calm you are, because your nerves can really get to you. That's a big deal with large format meetings, is that when you talk in a large format meeting, you may talk too much. So when we're talking about having good energy, it's about having the right energy. If you have too much energy, you could be spiraling out of control and you're talking too much. When we get nervous, we talk a lot, just like in some of these videos. Number 4, control your pace and space. You need to know when to stop talking. You need to know how to control how much you're talking and at what time. There's a good thing here. When it comes to pacing yourself, I think that there's a good correlation between how well paced you are versus how confident you are. Meaning, if you're super confident about what you're presenting, you're more likely to know your pace and you're going to keep space. And the reason why that is important is because if you're doing especially a highly technical and data focused presentation, you're going to want to make sure people can actually comprehend most of what you're saying. And you need to have paces and pauses, and not just strategic pauses, because that's what good speakers do. They always allow for strategic pauses so people can sink it in and people can absorb the information. But it's not only for that. It's just so that you can actually let people understand the information, and then you can double back. So one of the talking tips would also be making sure you're reconfirming and validating some of the information that you just presented. Moving on, number 5, spread your focus. And what we mean by that is physically in the room. Let's say you have a whole bunch of people. Make sure you're not too focused on particular individuals in the audience. You may have some people that ask a lot of questions, and you naturally will want to focus on those people. And if they're providing you with a good sense of energy and sort of confirmation within the things that you're saying, you want to utilize those people, but you don't want to focus in on them too much and make it a little bit awkward. You want to spread your focus throughout the room, because you never know where a good signal is going to come from. And that's a real skill. If you can watch the audience while you're doing a large format presentation, obviously it gets harder. And some people will give you advice. Again, traditional advice will always tell you that you want to focus on the back of the room, or you want to make sure you're not zeroing in on a particular individual. But really, I believe that you should spread your focus. Now, if you have bad energy that's coming from a particular audience, you have someone that's not paying attention, if you have young people that are multitasking, not to throw young people under the bus, but if you have anybody who's multitasking and they're not paying attention, you don't want to zero in on those people. They're actually going to make you feel like your presentation is not valuable. And those types of things can just be sort of a mind game. Number 6, be clear on why. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but you want to make sure that people understand why they're there, why you're presenting the information. So if you got to a point in your presentation in a very highly informative section, you got to make sure that you're clear on what the why is there and why you just presented that piece of information. Otherwise, you're going to lose people. And the most important thing in business is why. Why are we here? Why are we looking at this? And make it as valuable as possible to someone by really knowing the why. Lastly, I didn't write it down, but the biggest thing, and I can value this advice for myself, is know when to stop talking. So you got to know when to stop talking. And I'm just going to write stop talking for the sake of time. Know when to stop talking. And the biggest thing is that when you're a salesperson, you could actually be talking way too much. You don't want to talk too much. If you talk too much, you could lose people. You need to get the point across. You need to get the message across. And that's my video for today.